Oh, all right. This will be a short video. I'm low on battery, and the wind is pretty heavy, so we'll see how this goes. Well, today was a really phenomenal day. The synchronicities have been extraordinary in my experience as of late, and I'm hoping the same for you. It has been just a guided journey where I know that God is taking me on the path and leading me where He wants me. I just got done writing another song. It's very heartfelt, very touching. It's written as a prayer, me praying to God, and similar to David in the Psalms, and really taking my prayer language into music and worship. And a couple of miraculous things really broke through. So the first of all is, I'll humbly admit that, I'd say about 10 days ago or so, I had a positive test for the thing, and lost my smell, and was not feeling very good at all. I continued to, get outside and run. I didn't go around people, but I just did my thing, and I did a lot of sprinting with the weight vest, a lot of hiking, and the one thing that was troubling me predominantly is I thought, God, I really am having a hard time breaking this dream of not being able to smell. I really appreciate my sense of smell, so there it is. It's back. Well, it wasn't back this morning, and then I decided, let me watch some Christian Science talks, let me read the books again, let me figure out what I'm missing here. And I really just felt in my heart to turn to God and listen. That's what the new workshop is. The big idea is we know the thoughts of God, then we listen. And then in that listening space, we receive the bread of life. We receive God's word. Well, last night I was practicing the technique from that workshop, and I got a hook, literally, for the song. And I got this part of the song, and I played with it for about, 20 minutes or so. And then I'm on my walk. I went to the Shipwagon today, and I walked by the beach. It was too windy to record it. Plus, I was working with prayer, and I was really getting it into my heart. And, the new song was so touching. It made me cry. It was really just heartfelt. I felt God's love so deep. And it's called Life Divine. And it's really a prayer turned into a song. And I kid you not, the minute I got done writing the song, I never in my life have felt so grateful to smell the body odor on me. So I got done doing hill sprints, and I hiked probably about 5-6 miles. I knew that I stunk because obviously I was just drenched in sweat. And today's the first day. I smelt it, and I said, I'm like, yep, it's peach smelling. God restored me. So God restored me back. And that's the whole purpose of our atonement, is to know our oneness with God. So it was a great epic day. Now here's something even more just profound. I was writing the bridge for the song. And the words are, I know the price, you paid for me. I know the price you paid for me. And my phone tracks everywhere I'm going when I'm recording this. And I was in the car, and that part came to me. I know the price you paid for me. I was just hearing it. And my phone captured it, and it said Mount Calvary. I was driving right through Mount Calvary. That's right. That's not a joke. Right as that line came to me. And again, it made me weep again, because I realized that God is governing and God is in control. There is no other power. There is no other mind. And it blew me away when I saw it. It was right at the part when the bridge changes, and I was singing about how I know the price that you paid for me. And I was right there in Mount Calvary, right on the screenshot, right on the phone. You can't make this stuff up. And all day long, I've been all prayed up for this whole week, which is the real hidden benefit here in all this, is that my prayer life has been sort of on overdrive. Is the windows of heaven are open in my consciousness. I'll conduit. And like I said in the previous video, when I conduit, I can do it. And this song is, let's just keep, fingers crossed that the artist can capture the heartfelt vibe of the song. Probably wrap it up with some piano or something pretty. And it itself is a prayer. I would even say it's very much like a psalm. I think today I wrote my first real song, if you will. And I'm excited to share it with you guys. It's called Life Divine. Whenever it's ready, I'll have it out for you. And yeah, I know the action. The action is all in prayer. It's all in God. When you get the windows of heaven open in your consciousness, all the beauty starts to pour through and the world changes around you and the sun begins to shine off of all the dark spots, and everything begins correcting itself. And your heart may melt, you may weep, you may radiate joy, playfulness, laughter. I've had all these emotions. And today I wept in love. I felt God's love for me so deep. I felt it so deeply that I couldn't help it. And I hope that conveys through the song to you. I pronounce myself well. I pronounce myself whole. And life is God. Life is truth. Life is love. And there is no other life. So short and simple for today. By the way, the links are below if you want to join us in some workshop classes. I think it's fun. It's a great group. And we always come up with some cool breakthroughs and some great strategies. And there's a lot of spiritual food in there. And it's based on your own tithe, your own donation. There's nothing to obstruct you from participating. You step in on faith and you'll leave with understanding. That's how we want it to be for you. All right. See you next time. I just want to share this with you. It's a new song that I wrote, and the lyrics were a prayer, and they work together really nice in a melody that I put together for the song. But for now, I just want to read these words to you, and if you want to just take them in as a prayer, I think they'll be very effective if you feel them with your heart. In the intro, I'll begin and I'll go straight through the song. God's laws and love, they govern all. Wholly separate from the dream is the life divine. Battle tested, you are my strength in life. O Lord, in you I find my true self, my hope I was made to find. O life divine, free me from this burden. Yeah, be my defense, my deliverer, my refuge, my defense, my deliverer. You are safety from this storm. Steadfast I face thee, I fear no more. Windows of heaven opening and the clouds breaking through. My truth, my home, I rest in your arms. O life divine, free my troubled soul. Be my defense, my deliverer. Be my defense, my deliverer. In your hope, in your glory, in your name, holy. Life divine, O life divine, I know the price was paid for life, for me. I know the price you gave your life to me. O life divine, break this dream. O life divine, shelter me. O life divine, break this dream. O life divine, shelter me. Shelter me. I walk with love today. Can you show me how to walk along the way? I walk with love today. Can you show me how to walk along the way? I walk with love today. Can you show me how to walk along the way? I walk with love today. Can you show me how to walk along the way?
I'm back. I just figured I would go on a little bit and just share some of the healing insights that I learned along this journey that may be useful. The first thing is a really interesting idea that I never heard before, and you might know this. I guess Mary Baker Eddy says somewhere in her writings that when you speak a truth to somebody and that truth reaches them and causes them to cry, to get angry, to laugh, that you have reached the thought that requires the healing. Now, the idea here in, if you want to call it Christian healing or spiritual reflection, is that you are dealing with thoughts. Everything that you think is physical, that's out there, that seems to be matter, it's not matter. It's actually not out there at all. It's in here and it's thought. Now, that's a really cool idea, because I know that, that during this process, I had reached some thoughts that really made me weep. I really found some ideas that really touched me deeply. And then I found another idea, and I realized why these thoughts touched me so deeply. I was talking to a friend who is very good at spiritual healing, and she said to me, whenever you're confronted with darkness, which is the absence of light, it's void of something that's true. That's what it is. The shadow that represents itself as the poverty, the discord, the evil, whatever it is. It's the absence of the good. Now, in that absence of good, if you will, what we are seeking in our individualized thought is either more faith or purer love. So I got a little bitch here. More faith or purer love. So she asked me, Matthew, which one are you seeking? I said, well, first of all, I thought, well, could it be both? But definitely purer love. Pure love. And then she went on to tell me that she doesn't believe in the idea of the so-called evil that spreads the earth and all of the emanations of that evil that come in multiple forms. What she said is, let's just cut to the chase. If pure love is what you're seeking, then you must learn how to love your enemies. Now, for me, I thought, well, yeah, definitely. I'm not there yet. I'm not 100% there yet. There are some, I guess you could say, persons, collective bodies of people, etc., that I would rather just never deal with again ever in this entire existence and eternity. They are what I would call the shadows of ignorance that seem to be in control, yet they are not. I know this. Then I remembered this story that I read in one of the books that I'd gotten into years ago, and I read just recently again in one of our online workshop classes about a man who had studied Christian Science, and this was back in the 1942, maybe something like that. He was in a prisoner of war camp, and he was obviously being starved, and they were sick, and they had some kind of contagion going around. And he was getting really unwell very fast. He was very sick. He didn't have nutrition, he didn't have supplements, he didn't have any, healing tablets or doctors. Nobody's going to take care of this person. They just assume just let you die. That's what they were going to do anyway. But he's hanging on to this idea of divine love, meeting every human need, that love is all, and God is love. The main concepts here. He's really working it. And he's not improving, he's getting worse. And then it comes in his prayer. When he's silent, he listens to what God has to say. And he is instructed that he needs to start loving his oppressors. He needs to start loving the people that are trying to, starve him and kill him. Imagine this, right? This is not easy. This is not a human love. In our human sense, we don't want to love these people. We just assume, let them go die. But that's not how this works. So remember, the shadow is what we project out there. That's centrifugal loss of power and inertia. That is the divergent loss of power. And so we see a world in our 5 human sense that is realistically the carnal mind's version of a truth. And it's counterfeiting truth and packaging it as evil. Imagine that. So we see this governance, and we see this nefarious governance, if you will, and we see all kinds of emanations, and even now, evil demands that we all be subordinate to it. Of course it does. Well, here's the big idea. Evil doesn't have a foothold in God's reality. It never could even get its toe in the door. It's not part of God's existence. And God created all, and God called it good. And yet here we are, sitting here in the midst of God, allness, love, divine love. And this projection of evil is staring at us right in the face. It's taunting us. It's tempting us. Can we love our enemies? Well, the way that I think it works, that it's possible, is if you understand that right where you think you saw evil, only God is there. Now, you know that through faith. You can't see that with your human eye, but you can know it through faith. Now, when you lean on that through faith, and you submit yourself to that idea, it is possible that perfect love will come in and replace what you thought you saw. In other words, we turn to the spiritual idea that is a fact of existence. And in that turning to that idea, our soul connects to spirit, the I am presence, if you will, and it brings us into the atonement where spirit forms us anew. Spirit will make us a better body, Mary Baker Eddy said, when we practice this science that she discovered. Also, well, what about these so-called enemies? Well, the world is our extended body. This is the same principle in play. Now imagine if you were in a big, larger body and you were just a little cell in that body. And you know that all trillions of whatever cells in your body, they have consciousness, do they not? According to science, they do. Well, if you are a cell in the larger collective body, if you will, of existence, maybe you might perceive yourself as a troubled, sick, undeserving, unworthy cell, whatever it is. And maybe through guilt and shame and condemnation, what they call the law of the flesh, the wicked one has been tormenting you into submission, one way or the other, through a financial lack, a human relationship problem, sickness with yourself or with somebody in your family, something along those lines. What if you knew that the entire picture was really the extended body, and yet none of it was material at all? It was actually in the realm of thought, and therefore you have the capacity to change your thoughts about what you think is going on out there, about who you think the people involved are. about the nature of your supply. An example of how to do that is really efficiently done in the New Man workshop that we just completed. And that was probably the best workshop that I've done in quite some time, and that was really divinely inspired. But we turned to the nature of the presence within, and recognizing that our conscious awareness of the divine presence within as our supply is our supply, we leaned on that for a sustained period, 30 days, every single day, leaning on that concept in other various ways of articulating the same truth, and taking a journal and writing down the insights that came along in that process. Many, many breakthroughs happened for a lot of people, including myself. I have discovered a tremendous level of growth that took place even in places where I wasn't expecting it. Well, what did I actually do? What are we doing in that class? Well, we're changing our thoughts about what we think is going on out there. We're taking the power back from out there. We're bringing it back to the centripetal 0 point, back into the still now space, and using our focus. We are aiming our arrow, if you will. That's subconscious language of how you talk to the unconscious mind. We're aiming our arrow to a divine principle, not to the ignorance of this world. So now here we are. We see a lot of suffering going on in the world. We see a lot of things like job losses, tremendous problem, food shortages. We see calamities, depravities, injustice, hatred. And it's rampant. It's everywhere. It's staring at you in the face everywhere you go. And it's futile to try to do anything out there about it. You're not going to do anything out there. That's not the way. The way is within. We say, okay, right where this trouble seems to be tempting me, fear, lack of good, it's trying to hide the good that is omnipresent, love itself. One mind, one consciousness, one activity, one life. But it sure seems like there are two powers now, good and evil. Well, anytime I see persons, objects in time and space, and anytime that I need God, I'm in the dream. So I've been cast into the dream. The first step is knowing that this is a hypnosis. It's the serpent in the garden hissing. The carnal brain is, in essence, bringing us into captivity to its own ideas, which have nothing to do with the kingdom of God. They are the antithesis of spiritual understanding. Now, what I did yesterday was really profound, and I'll give you an example of how I did it. I turned away from the evidence of this world. I turned away from all of it. And I began just constructing a prayer to God and just working with that idea. I began with a simple little hook 2 days prior to that. It's like, I walk with love today. Show me how to walk along the way. You know, just walk with love today. And I was hearing this in my head, and I just worked with it and worked with it. And all of a sudden, another idea came and another one. I started just working with these ideas. And I was giving my entire focus to these ideas. I was being absent from the body, including the extended body, which is the world. Not just the physical identification of a mortal self, but all identifications of time, objects in time and space. I was absent from all of it. I was present with the Lord, meaning I was with a divine idea, and I was dancing with it. I was praising it. I was commingling with heavenly angels, if you will, these divine thoughts from God. Well, I reached another, I'd call it a love threshold, and I just was in tears again. Just felt some intense love. And all of a sudden, everything got brighter. Everything became stiller. I recognized that I was in the consciousness of the kingdom. I feel the change happening. I feel the peace coming. The supply is pouring through. The ideas are flowing. And I'm like, okay, all right. So God is granting me access through grace to his kingdom, his world, his life made manifest, because I'm renouncing everything else. I'm renouncing all of this other so-called life. There's only one life. I'm worshiping that life. I start singing to that life. Now, I'm not a good singer. I write all my music. I do. And I write the melodies, but I let other people perform them for me, because I really think you will enjoy them better that way. Now, I can sing them myself. I don't mind my own singing. Some things I can tune to okay, but just for the sake of your listening pleasure, I let other people do this. Now, I made this song, and it was so just uplifting. And I thought, this is God. It's like the music is playing me, and I'm in the company of angels. And they're giving me divine ideas. And those divine ideas are ministering to me. Those divine ideas are changing my thought about what I think I saw, felt, heard, taste, touch out there. God is doing this. God is melting away all of these troubles because of God's allness. My thought is tuning to God. Mary Baker Eddy called it tuning. All of her healings were instantaneous until she decided to start teaching everybody how to do Christian Science. She had instantaneous healings. She'd look at somebody person had a fish hook go right through their face, grotesque thing. All she had to do was just turn her attention to divine love, become one with it, and then that so-called other person would be made whole instantly. Now, if she were the only one that were able to do this, and this was some kind of anointing, I'd say, well, great. This is for fun. This is just for entertainment. Let's just study her because she's obviously one in, billions of people, and we can just celebrate the fact that for a short period of time she was here, and guess you didn't make it. You weren't around at that time. You lucked out. That's not true. She taught a replicatable way of doing this, and she taught a science that is something you can lean on, something you can turn to and work with, and you'll get better with it. Just like the principle of mathematics, at first you may not be able to work out these equations and work out these problems, but if you work with these ideas and you gain the understanding at each step of the way, you'll get more and more revelation, like what I shared with you at the beginning of this. Well, when someone speaks a thought to you, a truth-containing thought, it causes a reaction of anger, laughter, or crying. They've reached the thought that requires the healing. Amazing. It's amazing. What wisdom in that? That is wisdom. And the other thing was we're seeking more faith or purer love, because the inversion of that is what we call darkness. It's the counterfeit state. It's inverting a truth. Well, we look to the truth now. We look to the truth and leave the darkness behind. So yesterday was an example of how I was doing this, and I was looking to God in composing this song and making this melody and working with the ideas. Now, you can just work with ideas. You don't have to write songs. You don't have to you're not here to try to, get an A in a schoolroom with God. You're just tuning your heart to the thoughts of God and listening. And as you tune your heart to the thoughts of God and listen, then you're going to start receiving. God's ideas will come. Angels abound. Messages from heaven will come to you, and they will minister to you. They will pull you out of despair. They will either do one of two things. They will either pop the bubble in consciousness of the hypnotic dream that the carnal mind is doing to subdue you in, or provide you with whatever is needed in order to bring the remedy or the resolution to that discordant picture that's seemingly happening out there. And this is great stuff. This is really where the action is. And we grow from it. And we evolve our selves to become more and more God-like, practicing being God-like. That means demonstrating the fruits of the Spirit. That means thinking what God knows to be true, even if we are confronted with the darkness, the void state, the counterfeit inversion of that truth. Especially when we are confronted with that counterfeit of truth. This is when we're growing, so we can say, I welcome the good. I welcome this new good that is coming into my life. Whatever this claims to be, I know what it is. It is God alone. Therefore, goodness is expanding in me, through me, and around me. And I'm going to welcome this new good. And then reach for a divine thought. I created the PTT to get yourself started. It's like an on-ramping process that can take you to a first principle idea and let you just break the hypnotic dream so that you can stay with these divine ideas. For example, if I'm looking at let's say there's a troubling situation out there, I could say, God is all and God is love. In every 4 seconds, like a metronome, I snap the fingers, or I tap, or I do something to create what's called a pattern interrupt in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. All I'm doing is I'm recognizing that the continuity of evidence in what's called law, it has to be a continuity of evidence, the material evidence set before me on the external plane of illusion, is attempting to make a case, and it's trying to make a case against God's allness. And if it succeeds in making that case demonstration and changes my thought to comply with its erroneous fictional lie, then I suffer the consequence of turning away from that principle. That's Genesis 1, man in the garden tempted by the snake, coming into Genesis 2. That snake is lying to you. So we just use the metronome just to keep bringing us back to this moment. It just keeps bringing attention back to this moment and putting our thought back on what is true. God is all, God is love. God is all and God is love. And I just keep playing with that idea until another companion idea starts to come from that idea. God's breath is life itself. God's breath is life itself. And I just allow that idea, just let it come. God's breath is life itself. God's truth is never disrupted. God's truth is never disrupted. God's truth is never disrupted. Now, I'm going to play with that third idea for quite some time, because the way that the human mind works is it goes obsession, fluff, and then heart of the matter. So the first thought was, obviously, we start with that obsession. God is all, God is love. It's a great principle idea. Second thing that came was God's breath is life. Third thing that came is God's truth is never disrupted. That seems to be the heart of the matter for what I just put this into application to disrupt. I'm disrupting a lie. I'm breaking the continuity of evidence on the material plane, and I'm going to set my case, if you will, on the factual understanding of God. And I'm going to bring that claim into, if you want to call it the level playing field, which is a court. I'm going to bring that into this court, and the judge is God. God is judging what? Well, our heart. God is judging our heart. Where is our affection? Is it on the things of this world, or is it on the things of God? Now, this is when we have to get a little radical, and we have to say, if I go down, I'm going down, believing in you, God. I mean, I know that you're all there is. I know that there's nothing else here. I know that I'm being tempted with a hypnotic dream right now, and I know that you're the only power to break this dream. And I know that you alone have all power. So this thought that God's truth is never disrupted, I'm gonna build on that thought. I'm gonna put my focus on that thought and hold it there. And I'm just gonna hold on to it and take that into account all day today. And I'm going to let even more of those divine thoughts come into my awareness. And by the grace of God, maybe I'll even have a thought come that reaches a place where I'll laugh, get angry, or cry. But it's not necessary. All I have to do, I've been equipped to do, as have you. And that's to turn to the Father in obedience. And to rest in peace, be dead to the world and alive in spirit. And the rest is just to let God govern your steps, and to let God move you through the new level of good, the new growth that's happening. So be expectant for good. It's coming. It's working through you. It's happening. And these ideas, I think, will bless you. Take care.